Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Simone. If you are familiar with my channel, then you would know that I have a mini series here where I talk about my experience in applying for a Canada study permit. If you've watched my most recent video, then you would know I was talking about my experience in getting two refusals for my two applications, and I went over the refusal reasons that they gave me and went into explanation on how I overcame those reasons and how I changed my application to be ultimately accepted for a study permit. Today it's kind of a similar video to that one, but we're actually going to be talking about the top 5 most common reasons Canada study permits are refused, and we're going to be just giving a brief explanation on what those reasons mean and ways of overcoming those reasons and changing your application in the future so you can get your study permit. Okay, as always, before I get into this video, I just want to say that I'm not an immigration advisor or an immigration lawyer. All the information and all the things I'm going to be mentioning are things that I have found throughout my own research. So you don't have to do what I tell you to do. You don't have to do what I say, okay? This is just information that should help you in your own applications and information that I found to be useful for myself. So I hope you enjoy the video and I hope you learn something. So yeah, let's get into this video. If you are familiar with the process or if you've been rejected before, then you know that when they reject your application, they send you a correspondence letter with kind of generic statements to give you an idea of why they think you're not admissible to Canada. So I'm actually going to be explaining what those generic statements mean, because sometimes they don't really make a lot of sense and you might not have an idea of how to change your application in order to address their reasons. So we're actually going to be going over each refusal reason and explaining how you can change your application in the future. Okay? Most common reason Canada study permits are rejected is because of purpose of visit. Given that you've applied for a study permit, then logically and obviously your purpose of visit is to study. So if you've been rejected on the basis of this reason, then it is just a huge hint to you that the visa officer doesn't believe you are a genuine student. So why would the visa officer think you're not a genuine student? Well, if there isn't a logical progression in your studies, then the visa officer might doubt that you are here to actually learn. They might think you're just here for the sake of studying and for the sake of just being in Canada. So if you're someone who is changing a course, for example, if you are studying a course that doesn't make sense given your educational background or given your work history, then the visa officer might have some doubts if you are a genuine student. And obviously it's okay to change course, but you need to give an adequate explanation on why you are changing your course. Another reason a visa officer might not think you are a genuine student is if you haven't given them any explanation as to how the program is going to help you career-wise. So if you haven't explained properly to the visa officer that there is an advantage of you getting this education. Essentially, if you've been refused on the basis of purpose of visit, it just means that you've written a weak SOP and you probably need to go back and revise it and include all the necessary information that the visa officer is looking for. I'm not going to go into too much detail on how you should write an SOP because I do have a separate video on that. So do check that out if you want to know how to write a good SOP. But yeah, do your best in explaining why you are changing your course if you are in a position where you are actually studying something that's different to your history, your educational history, or your work history. Or do your best in explaining how the program is going to enhance your career in the future. Is it going to make jobs easier for you? Like, is it going to be make it easier for you to secure a job? Are you going to be able to make more money? Explain that to the visa officer, because they want to know that this program that you want to study is going to be a huge advantage to you. Second most common reason Canada study permits are rejected is because of financial resources. So we all know that if you're applying for a Canada study permit, you need to include a proof of funds documentation, and within that documentation, you need to have shown funds for a minimum of 1 year of your stay. But what you guys may or may not know is that just merely focusing on that 1 year minimum, even though it is the minimum requirement, is not enough. Sometimes you would need to go over and above that requirement just to solidify the fact that you are able to fund your stay, whether it be your first year or however many years that you're going to be staying there. So some people say that the best thing for you to do is to have a bank statement that shows that you have 30,000 Canadian dollars available in your bank account. Obviously, that depends on how much your tuition fees is going to be for your first year. If it's above 30,000 Canadian dollars, then you need to adjust that that value. But another thing I will say on this topic is that not only do you need to show bank statements and things of that sort, but you need to give an adequate explanation on where that money came from, because the visa officer doesn't want to assume that you've borrowed your funds from friends and family to make it seem like you have the funds when you don't. So make sure your money is coming from a legitimate source, and don't just mention where your money is coming from. You should have proof of where the money is coming from as well. I personally know someone who had bank statements that showed over 100,000 Canadian dollars in the bank account, but they were refused on the basis of financial resources. And the main reason they were refused is because they didn't explain where those funds came from, even though they had the money. So make sure you're explaining your proof of funds documentation, even if it's receipts of previous payments that you've made for tuition, for example, or living accommodations. Just explain everything. You don't want to leave anything up for question in the visa officer's mind. And you never know, the visa officer might not go over your documentation very well. So just mentioning it in your SOP can have the visa officer, go back and be like, yeah, okay, you did include that. So yeah, that's it for financial resources. Third most common reason Canada study permits are rejected is family ties. When you apply for your study permit, the visa officer has to be satisfied that you're going to leave Canada after your stay. So within your application, you need to tell them what ties you have back in your home country. One of those ties, and very important thing to mention, is if you have family back in your home country. Mentioning the family that you have back in your home country can strengthen your application, because a visa officer believes that if you've got family back home, then you are more likely to want to go back to them and be close to them after you study. So mentioning the close relatives that you have, especially if it's your parents or your siblings, that can be very, very good. So always mention what family you have back in your home country, because that's very, very important. On the other hand, if you have family in Canada, that could actually work against you, because again, the visa officer will believe that you want to stay in Canada after you study, to be closer to your family members. So to overcome that, you really should be mentioning other ties that you have to your home country other than family. These could be economical, social, or personal ties. For example, if you have a job in your home country, then you should mention that you want to go back to your job after you are done studying. Another very, very good thing to mention is if you've got a business back in your home country, you need to explain to them that you want to go back to your business and make your business, flourish. Some other good things to mention are if you've got property or assets back in your home country. Yeah, just really try your best to outweigh the reason of you having family in Canada, and explain that not only do you have things that you want to go back to, but you have to go back to them, okay? Give an explanation of why you would want to go back to those things, okay? Fourth most common reason Canada study permits are rejected is no job prospects in your home country. If you are a mature student or you've recently graduated, unfortunately for you, the visa officer expects you to be employed at the time of you submitting your study permit application. So to actually overcome this reason, or to prevent yourself from getting rejected based off this reason, the best thing for you to do is to look for a job or try to secure a job for when you're done studying. That way you can include the employment letter in your study permit application. The problem with this is that you may be studying a course that's going to be over 4 years. There's absolutely no way that you can apply for a job that's going to be in 4 years time. Like there are no advertisements for that. So the next best thing for you to do is just give them an adequate explanation on why and how the program that you're going to be studying is going to enhance your employment opportunities back in your home country. So with this, you really need to be up to date with the news and all the information that is going on back in your home country, specifically within your field, so you can explain that to the visa officer. But yeah, just do your best in giving an adequate explanation into why people in your field specifically are in high demand, and how you are going to be able to find a job pretty easily after you're done studying, of course. Last but not least, the fifth most common reason Canada study permits are rejected is travel history. If you've never left your home country before, then unfortunately the visa officer may use this as a ground for refusal. The reason why the visa officer will refuse you if you've not traveled outside your country before is, to them, they believe that if you don't have proof of not overstaying in a previous country or in another country before, then you are likely to overstay in Canada. It's kind of like you are guilty until proven innocent in this case. So honestly, for me, the best way to overcome this refusal reason, or to prevent yourself from being rejected based off of travel history, is to travel. Even if it means just traveling to a neighboring country for 2 or 3 days, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, just as long as you're getting that stamp in your passport showing that you've traveled, showing that you haven't overstayed, and showing that you left the country within the given time that you were allowed to stay in the country, then that's good, because the visa officer really wants to make sure that you're not going to break any immigration laws when you are in Canada. Okay, so just showing them that proof is the best thing you can do, but obviously it's not a deal breaker. If, however, you are in a situation where you can't travel outside your country, or you don't have any time to travel, then the best thing for you to do is give an explanation in your SOP of why you haven't traveled outside your country before. That's the best thing you can do. Visa officers are also very understanding. They just don't want you to lie in your SOPs, or make it seem like you're not mentioning something because you don't want them to catch you out. So just mention that you haven't traveled outside your country because of XYZ, and just reassure them that you don't plan on overstaying in Canada, and you don't plan on breaking any immigration laws. That's it. That's all the advice I can give you. But again, the best thing for you to do is just travel outside your country, come back, and get that stamp. Okay, that's it for this this video. I did say I was going to be talking about the 5 most common reasons Canada study permits are rejected. I hope you guys have learned something. I hope you can take away a couple of points and use them in your future applications. If you do have any questions about what I've just spoken about, then feel free to ask me in the comments, or you can even DM me on Instagram. I'm free and open to chatting with you all. Just one more thing, remember, I do have a separate video on how to write an SOP if you are still interested in knowing how to write a good document. But yeah, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.